Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I'm Joshua Barnes, live from the Firstpost studios. Let's begin with the top headlines. Russia says it is ready to hold as many meetings with the United States to achieve a peace settlement in Ukraine. This comes after the latest round of talks ended with no result. Israel says it will allow residents of Gaza to leave for Egypt through the Rafah crossing, the key border crossing to be opened under the supervision of the European Union. Egypt denies the development. The Indian government revokes the rule to install a state-run cybersecurity application on all smartphones. The government says installing the app is not mandatory. The maiden test of China's next-generation land-based rocket ends in failure as the reusable spacecraft fails to make a controlled landing. And South Korea's president addresses the nation to mark the first anniversary of a coup attempt. The president vows to ensure the perpetrators behind the coup bid are brought to justice. The Indian rupee woke up to a historic low today, slipping past the 90 mark against the US dollar for the first time ever. It's a symbolic level, one that signals more than just a number on a currency chart. Over the last few days, the fall has been steady. On Tuesday, the rupee closed at 89.95 versus the dollar, after losing 42 paise in a single session. And if you zoom out, the picture becomes clearer. The rupee has already fallen around 5% this year. In fact, it's now one of the worst performing currencies in Asia. But here's the twist. This decline isn't happening because of India's weak economy. Quite the opposite. India's GDP growth has been stronger than expected. The real pressure is coming from outside. Higher US tariffs on Indian goods, delays in a key trade deal with Washington, and foreign investors pulling money out of Indian markets. Foreign investors have withdrawn nearly $17 billion from Indian stocks this year. Foreign direct investment has also been muted. When money moves out, demand for dollars rises, bringing the rupee under further strain. Add to this a widening trade deficit, which crossed $40 billion in October, and a need for the dollar only grows. And that demand matters, because India depends on imports for essentials like fuel, electronics, cooking oil, and fertilisers. When the rupee weakens, these imports become costlier. A weaker rupee, simply put, is like having a smaller shopping budget when the prices abroad stay the same. Domestic markets have felt this pinch too. The Nifty slipped below the 26,000 mark. The Sensex lost nearly 200 points as a falling currency raised concerns about inflation and foreign money exiting. But for most people, the real impact will be felt at home. Petrol and diesel may inch up in price. Gadgets could become more expensive. Students paying international fees will feel the jump immediately. Vacations abroad will cost more. Even home loans could eventually face pressure if inflation rises and interest rates shift. So why is the Reserve Bank of India, the country's central bank, not stepping in aggressively as it has earlier and during other currency crises? Because something has changed. The International Monetary Fund recently reclassified India's currency system from stabilised to cruel-like. That means the RBI is guiding the rupee's movement, not fighting every fall. Rather than drawing a hard line at 90 or any other level, the RBI now prefers gradual, controlled depreciation that reflects the country's trade realities and inflation gaps with the world. In simpler terms, the central bank is choosing patience over panic, and that's what makes this moment different. The dollar isn't unusually strong. India isn't short of reserves. The RBI isn't scrambling. Instead, the rupee's slide seems to be part of a long-term adjustment, a slow reshaping of India's piece in a shifting global economy.
We believe the dollar weakness next year should support mild rupee appreciation, and that could pick up pace around seasonally favorable first quarter for rupee.
For now, the currency is signalling that the world around is changing, and India needs to adjust with it. The next few weeks will reveal if the rupee's fall is just a passing phase or the start of a new normal. And for more on this, we have with us Professor Vikas Singh, who is joining us. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Joshua.
So after dropping below the 90 rupee barrier, where do you see the Indian currency in the longer term compared to the dollar, and why is that?
I think in the long run, I think we must not get panicky about the drop of 5% over the last 1 year or so. We must remember that our currency has not dropped as much as the other Asian countries. This has happened not because the weakening of the Indian economy, but more because, as you rightly said, the Federal Reserve is keeping the interest rates higher, which means that the global capital is moving back to the US Treasury market. This is not unique. Almost every Asian currency from the yuan to the won has weakened sharply. On top of that, India's energy dependence makes the currency a little bit more sensitive, and we import more than 80% of our crude. When oil prices rises and the dollar is strong, I think the pain is more visible. However, I don't see this lasting. The Indian economy is very strong, and the Reserve Bank has every arsenal in its books to fight this if needed. Reserve Bank of India has, and rightly so, not panicked. Hasn't doesn't have a number to fight the currency number. So it's not that if it goes over 90, it will step in. It will step in at the right time, and I think it's working in a very mature manner.
Yes, and Vikas, I'd like to expand on that if possible. You mentioned stepping in. What measures could be put in place if this does continue to drop? And we have mentioned, of course, it's outside of India's control, but could there be a response?
I don't think it will ever go beyond India's response, because I think if you look at the economy, the GDP growth rate is among the highest. India is a very strong economy. The economy is strong not only because of the internal and domestic consumption, but also because our balance of payment has never been as strong as it is today. The Reserve Bank of India believes that our forex reserves are comfortable. The RBI also has the credibility and the firepower to manage this volatility. The central bank will not defend a fixed number, as I said earlier, but it will prevent disorderly movement and excessive speculation. It hasn't come to that yet. India's current account deficit is under control. Our growth rate remains one of the highest globally, and investor confidence is pretty high. So I don't think the RBI needs to move in now or needs to panic and take any decision that indicates that we are in trouble.
Yes, and Vikas, to finish, I want to look at the United States. How is the ongoing trade situation with the US impacting the rupee? And what could a potential trade deal with the Trump administration mean for the currency?
I mean, as I've been always saying, that the trade deal is not a big deal for India, because India is not a great trader. Our economy is not dependent on the trade deal. But it's something that we need. It's something that signals that all is okay between India and the US. So that's the reason why the trade deal is important. It's not important for the economy per se, but what it signals is more important. I think the trade deal is in its final stages. If it doesn't happen this quarter, it's definitely going to happen in the first quarter of the next financial year, first quarter of the next calendar year. So that's not a worry. We must also remember that the US needs us as much as we need it, and I think the Indian negotiators have done well. They haven't panicked. They've acted in a very mature manner, and I think the deal is closer than we think.
Yes, Vikas Singh, thank you ever so much for your time and your insight.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Moving on to our next story. President Vladimir Putin is expected to arrive in New Delhi tomorrow for the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit. This will be his first visit to India since the Ukraine war began. Let's take a look at what is expected from the visit. Putin will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi and attend a state banquet hosted by the President of India, Draupadi Murmu. Defence cooperation is expected to dominate the agenda. Nearly two-thirds of India's defence equipment are of Russian origin. Indian officials are reportedly planning to seek faster delivery of pending equipment, including S-400 Triumph air defence systems. Reports suggest the two sides may also discuss additional procurement of these long-range missiles. India is expected to ask for more clarity on spares, maintenance and upgrades for Russian origin jets, tanks and submarines. Reports add that the Su-57, Russia's next-generation stealth fighter jet, may be discussed, but only as a future possibility and not as a plan for immediate purchase. According to Russian media reports, Russia's lower house of parliament has ratified a major military logistics pact with India ahead of Putin's visit. The agreement, called the Reciprocal Exchange of Logistics Support, or RELOS, was signed on February 18, 2025. The ratification of the pact would allow to decide a roadmap for joint military drills, operations and mutual logistical support. It will lay procedural clarity for training, humanitarian aid and disaster relief missions, and will strengthen military cooperation. Energy will be the second big focus. According to reports, India is expected to negotiate long-term crude oil contracts with non-US sanctioned Russian firms. Russia is currently India's largest crude supplier, providing 30 to 35% of India's oil. New Delhi is also expected to seek the revival of its own investments in Russian oil and gas projects. India will also push for progress in nuclear cooperation, beyond existing nuclear reactors imported from Russia. Beyond defence and energy, economic cooperation is expected to be a major highlight of the summit. According to reports, both sides may announce pacts on trade, maritime connectivity, healthcare and media exchanges. India is reportedly pushing to increase exports of pharmaceuticals, agricultural goods and textiles to Russia, and is seeking the removal of non-tariff barriers. India is also expected to secure long-term fertiliser supplies from Moscow, which remain critical for Indian farmers. Another agreement reportedly close to finalisation concerns the safe and regulated migration of skilled Indian workers to Russia. Payments between India and Russia are increasingly being done outside the US dollar because of sanctions. Both countries are also looking to set up a more stable payment system, reducing dollar dependency. India and Russia are not new trade partners. Their cooperation in defence and energy has been a pillar of friendship for decades. Both PM Modi and President Putin have openly praised the coordination between the two countries.
Dear Prime Minister, dear friend, Russia and India have been maintaining special, friendly, trusting relations for decades, and this is a basis for the development of our relations. These relations are nonpartisan in nature and are supported by an overwhelming majority of people of our countries.
एक्सेलेंसी, ये हमारे स्पेशल एंड प्रिविलेज स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप की गहराई और व्यापकता का परिचायक है। कठिन से कठिन परिस्थितियों में भी भारत और रूस हमेशा कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर चले हैं। हमारा करीबी सहयोग न केवल दोनों देशों के लोगों के लिए बल्कि वैश्विक शांति, स्थिरता और समृद्धि के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है।
All eyes will now be on December the 4th, when the leaders of two long-term partners, India and Russia, will hold talks to review bilateral relations. The meet could redefine the ties between the two nations for the coming decade. Our next story comes from Myanmar. A new United Nations report confirms that opium poppy cultivation in the country has surged to its highest level in the last 10 years. As the nation remains trapped in civil war and economic collapse, farmers are being pushed deeper into the illegal opium economy just to survive. Opium is a highly addictive narcotic harvested from poppy flowers, and it is the raw material used to make heroin. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime says opium cultivation in Myanmar has jumped by 17% in just 1 year, rising from about 111,000 acres to more than 131,000 acres. Total opium output has jumped over 1,000 metric tons this year, as the area under cultivation has expanded rapidly. This makes Myanmar the world's leading known source of illicit opium, especially as production in Afghanistan has plunged after the Taliban's poppy ban. The report also warns that Myanmar has reached a critical point. Years of political turmoil, military rule and widespread poverty have driven communities into growing poppy as a last resort. Farmers say economic hardships and continuous conflicts have left them with few alternatives. The steepest increases have been recorded in East and South Shan states, regions that continue to see heavy clashes between the military and ethnic armed groups. South Shan remains the heart of opium production, accounting for nearly half of all cultivation. The UN report also found poppy farms for the first time in Sagyang region near the Indian border, indicating that the trade is spreading into new territory. The UN says that along with opium, Myanmar remains the largest crystal meth producer in the world. It is also a dangerous and addictive drug. A major factor behind Myanmar's rising drug production is the sharp jump in prices. Driven by rising demand, fresh opium prices have more than doubled since 2019, now selling at around $329 per kilo. This makes the opium economy worth up to $1 billion and a lifeline for farmers, but a critical threat for the region. The UN warns that Myanmar's heroin is now being detected in parts of Europe, indicating that new trafficking routes may be developing to fill the void left by falling Afghan production. The European Union Drugs Agency had claimed that about 60 kilograms of heroin believed to be linked to Myanmar were seized from air travellers entering the EU from Thailand in 2024 and early 2025. Authorities say that while the quantity is not large, it signals a possible expansion of trafficking routes towards Europe. The UN warns that global demand is shifting towards Southeast Asian heroin because of supply shortages from Afghanistan. In the end, the message from the development is clear. Without alternative livelihoods, farmers of Myanmar will remain trapped in poverty and will be forced to get involved in the opium trade. And to our final story, China. For the first time in 30 years, buying condoms and contraceptives will no longer be free. China wants more babies because it is staring at a historic population crisis. China will now slap a 13% value-added tax on condoms and other contraceptives. These products have been tax-free since 1993, supporting strict family planning policies. The new law takes effect on January the 1st. Beijing says this buffer gives businesses time to adjust systems and pricing. This comes as the demographic slide accelerates. China's population is shrinking for a third straight year. China recorded just 9.54 million births in 2024, roughly half of what was reported 10 years ago. The fertility rate is 1 child per woman, far below the 2.1 replacement level needed to maintain a stable population. So China faces a rapidly aging society and a severe labour shortage. The one-child policy enforced from 1979 to 2015 shaped the crisis. For decades, the state pushed contraception, sterilisation and limits on family size. It suppressed down birth numbers. Now, the economy is feeling the strain. China's rise was built on a young labour workforce, and that workforce is now shrinking. Officials warn the decline threatens long-term growth. Beijing is trying to reverse the system they created. While condoms get taxed, Beijing is dropping fees linked to a better family life. Childcare, elder care and marriage services are now free. China is offering cash subsidies to new parents and expanding paid parental and maternal leave. The aim is simple: reduce the cost of having children. Even with incentives, money remains a major barrier. A study from the Ua Population Research Institute estimates raising one child to age 18 cost 538,000 yuan. That is more than $76,000, among the highest in the world. This is a main reason why the country is reluctant to make more children. For many young adults, rising costs and uncertain jobs outweigh the idea of starting a family. They just can't afford it. There are also public health concerns. People fear the new condom tax could fuel unsafe sex. HIV cases in China climbed from 0.37 to 8.41 per 100,000 people between 2002 and 2021. Higher condom prices could push those numbers further. especially in a country with limited sex education. Beijing faces an uphill battle now. An ageing population demands more healthcare, pensions and support services, and a shrinking workforce must pay for it. All while the economy is slowing down. China isn't alone. Birth rates are falling across the world. China's logic is blunt. It's the world's second largest economy. A shrinking workforce hits supply chains, investments and even military strength. Beijing's strategy is about preserving global influence through numbers. From strict birth control to pro-birth incentives, can China reverse the tide? It remains to be seen if this bold gamble succeeds. That's all we have on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Until then, thanks for watching.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.